The notification came through while I was still in my uniform, sitting in my car outside the station. Engine off, hands in my lap. The ceremony had ended 40 minutes ago. I hadn't moved. It wasn't sadness, exactly. It was something quieter than that. The kind of feeling that doesn't have a clean name when something good happens to you and there's no one waiting at home who understands why it matters. I looked at my phone. My sister had sent a text at 6:47 p.m. All it said was, "Hope it went okay. We're still at dinner. Probably another hour. Talk tomorrow." I read it twice. Then I put my phone face down on the passenger seat and stared at the windshield for a while. My name is Maya. I'm 27 years old. I've been a paramedic with Station 9 Inches Columbus for 3 years. And that evening, I had just received the Franklin County EMS Medal of Valor, the highest commendation our department gives. It goes to one person per year. Sometimes it doesn't go to anyone at all, if the review board decides no incident that year met the standard. I had carried a 4-year-old boy out of a burning apartment building while a structural beam came down 6 feet behind me. I had kept him breathing in the back of the rig for 11 minutes with equipment that was failing and a partner who was on the radio screaming for backup. The boy's name was Elijah. He was in 2nd grade now. His mother had hugged me in the parking lot of that ceremony and couldn't speak for almost a minute. My family had known about the ceremony for 6 weeks. I should tell you about my family, because you need to understand the architecture of it before any of the rest makes sense. My father is a cardiothoracic surgeon. My mother spent 20 years as a hospital administrator before she retired. My older brother graduated top of his class from Ohio State's pre-med program and is now in his 2nd year of residency at Cleveland Clinic. My younger sister is finishing a dual degree in biochemistry and economics. I am the one who, at 19, told my father I wanted to be a paramedic. The silence that followed that announcement lasted approximately 4 seconds. I counted. "Paramedic," my father said. Not a question, just the word, repeated. The way you repeat something when you're buying yourself time to compose your expression. "Yes," I said. "You mean like driving the ambulance?" Among other things. My mother looked at the table. My brother, who was home for winter break, took a long drink of water. My father nodded slowly. The way he nods when a patient's family says something he fundamentally disagrees with but can't argue with directly. "I just want to make sure you've thought about the ceiling," he said. "There's not a lot of room to grow. It's not really a career track." "It is, actually," I said. "There's paramedic, supervisor, operations director, EMS chief. I mean financially," he said. "Compared to what you could do, what I could do, in his language, meant medicine. It always meant medicine. The real kind. The kind with a white coat and a framed degree and a parking spot with your name on it. I enrolled in the EMS program at Columbus State the following January. My father did not come to my certification ceremony. He had a conference in Atlanta that weekend. He mentioned the conference 3 times in the 2 weeks before it happened, which was how I knew it wasn't accidental. The years that followed had a particular texture to them. Not openly hostile, my family was never openly hostile, because that would have required a kind of directness they didn't practice. It was subtler. It was my mother saying Maya's doing her ambulance thing when she introduced me to her friends at Christmas. It was my father asking, at Thanksgiving, whether I'd looked into bridge programs for nursing or physician assistant school. It was my sister sharing a news article about paramedic burnout rates, captioned, "Just something to think about," with a little heart emoji at the end. It was the way their eyes moved when I talked about a difficult call, not with horror or concern, but with a mild, polite patience. The way you look when someone is explaining a hobby you don't personally find interesting. I learned to talk about work less. Then I learned to stop entirely. I loved my job with a completeness that surprised even me. I loved the controlled chaos of it, the weight of a jump bag over my shoulder, the way the radio sounded, crackling to life in the dark. I loved the moment when things were at their worst, and your training took over, and your hands knew what to do before your brain had finished thinking. I loved my partner, Denise, who had 12 years on me and laughed at everything and cried quietly in the parking lot after the bad calls and never made me feel like either response was wrong. I did not talk about any of this at family dinners. I listened to my brother talk about his residency. I asked my sister about her thesis. I passed the salad. The incident with Elijah happened on a Tuesday afternoon in March, 14 months before the Medal of Valor ceremony. I don't want to walk through it in detail because even now, certain parts of it sit in my chest in a way that doesn't fully dissolve. What I will tell you is that when we pulled up, the third floor of the building was already producing black smoke from 2 windows, and a woman on the sidewalk was screaming a child's name, and the firefighters hadn't made entry yet. And I looked at Denise and she looked at me, and we both already knew. I made the call. I went in with a firefighter named Carlos, who had about 30 seconds more hesitation than I did, which was reasonable because he was thinking about the structure and I was thinking about the screaming woman on the sidewalk. I found Elijah in a back bedroom, unconscious, under a pile of clothing he'd apparently pulled over himself. Someone, somewhere, had taught him that I got him out. The beam came down. I know it came down because I heard it and felt the heat on the back of my neck, but I didn't actually see it because I was already through the doorway. In the ambulance, I intubated a 4-year-old with smoke-damaged lungs and one hand that wasn't working right because I'd caught the doorframe wrong on the way out. Denise drove. I talked to Elijah even though he couldn't hear me, because it helped me keep my hands steady. He spent 4 days in the pediatric ICU. Then he went home. I filed my incident report, went home, sat on my bathroom floor for about 20 minutes, and then made myself eat something and go to sleep. I told my family about it 3 days later, at Sunday dinner. My father said, "That sounds very intense." My mother said she was glad the little boy was okay. My sister asked if I'd seen the new season of a show she was watching. My brother, to his credit, looked at me for a moment and said, "Are you doing okay? Like, actually?" "Yeah," I said. He nodded. That was the end of it. The nomination for the Medal of Valor came 8 months later. My captain, a broad-shouldered woman named Torres who had been doing this for 22 years, called me into her office and told me in the flat, matter-of-fact way she told everyone everything. "Review board approved your nomination. Ceremony's the 16th. Dress uniform. Bring whoever you want." I called my mother that evening. "Oh, that's wonderful," she said, in the warm but vague tone she used for things she didn't fully have context for. "What is it exactly?" I explained it. The Medal of Valor. 1 per year. The review board. The standard. "So, it's like an internal award? From your department?" "From the county," I said. "Franklin County EMS. It's the highest—" "No, I know. I'm just asking if it's open to the public or if it's more of an in-house thing." She paused. "Because the 16th is when your father and I were going to drive up to see your brother. He has a resident showcase that weekend." I was quiet for a moment. "I can see if we can shift it," she said, with the tone of someone who had already decided not to. "It's okay," I said. "I'll send you the details. Just let me know." I sent the details. I followed up once, 2 weeks before, to confirm. My mother replied, "We're planning to be there. Your father's schedule is always unpredictable, but we're trying. So proud of you, honey." The day before the ceremony, I texted to confirm the time and parking. My sister replied she had somehow been added to the thread with, "We'll be there if we can. Might be a little late. There's a dinner thing that got scheduled. Save us seats just in case. Just in case." I wore my dress uniform. I got there early. I found seats in the 3rd row, on the aisle, easy to spot, easy to reach from the door if they came in late. I put my jacket on one and my bag on 2 others and I waited. Captain Torres gave remarks. The county EMS director gave remarks. Elijah's mother, whose name was Brianna, spoke for 4 minutes without notes. And there was not a dry eye in the room, except possibly mine, because I was concentrating very hard on keeping my face neutral. They called my name. I walked to the front. The director pinned the medal to my uniform. There was a photograph. There was applause, real applause, sustained, the kind that fills a room and takes a moment to fade. I shook hands. I hugged Brianna. I hugged Denise, who was crying openly and unapologetically, which I had expected. Carlos was there and gave me a handshake that turned into a hug, and he looked slightly embarrassed about it, which made me smile. The seats in the 3rd row, on the aisle, were empty for the entire ceremony. Afterward, I checked my phone. My sister had texted at 6. "Hope it went okay. We're still at dinner. Probably another hour. Talk tomorrow." My mother had sent a heart emoji at 7:12, which meant she'd seen my sister's text. Nothing from my father. I sat in my car for a while. Then I drove home. I found out later how the video got made and how it spread. But at the time, I had no idea any of it was happening. There was a woman at the ceremony named Patricia, who was the aunt of a family whose child had been on one of my calls the previous year, not Elijah, a different child, a different incident. Patricia had come to show support for the department broadly, and she'd sat near the back, and she'd filmed parts of the ceremony on her phone the way people do without really thinking about it. She posted a clip that evening. It was maybe 90 seconds. It showed the moment they read out what I had done, the full account, read aloud by the county director, with language that did not soften or abbreviate anything. It showed Brianna speaking. It showed the pin being placed on my uniform. Patricia had captioned it, "This woman ran into a burning building for someone else's baby. She deserves every single person in that room, and then some. Franklin County is lucky." She tagged the station. She tagged the county EMS page. By 10 o'clock that night, the county page had shared it. By midnight, a local news account had reshared it with a comment. By the following morning, a larger regional account had picked it up, and then a national first responder appreciation page with several 100,000 followers shared it, and after that, the numbers stopped, meaning very much. I woke up the next morning to 47 notifications and a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. The voicemail was a producer at a local TV station asking if I'd be available for a brief interview. I sat on the edge of my bed and read the comments for a while. I'm not usually a person who reads comments, but I read them that morning, and I want to tell you that something loosened in my chest that I hadn't fully realized was tight. Not because of the praise, though the praise was kind, but because of the comments from the parents. The ones who wrote things like, "I have a 4-year-old," or "This made me hold my kids," or simply, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Those I read more than once. I didn't think about my family while I was reading. I wasn't thinking about them at all. That's the honest truth. My phone rang. It was my brother. "Hey," he said. "I've been seeing something." "The video," I said. A pause. "Maya, it's everywhere. Like, my attending showed it to the whole team this morning at rounds. She didn't know it was my sister." I didn't say anything. I didn't respond right away. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm good," I said. "I'm really good, actually." Another pause. "I should have been there," he said. "I know my showcase was the same weekend, but I should have figured it out." "It's okay," I said. "It's not, though." His voice had something in it I hadn't heard from him in a long time. Something honest and unpolished. "It's really not, Maya. I watched that video, and I watched you standing there and getting that medal, and I didn't know. I don't think I understood what you do." I thought about all the Sunday dinners, all the times I had stopped mid-sentence and pivoted to asking about his residency. All the years of making myself smaller so that the table could stay comfortable. "You can come to the next one," I said, and I meant it. My father called that afternoon. I was at the grocery store when my phone rang, and I saw his name on the screen, and I stood in the cereal aisle for 2 full rings before I answered. "Maya," he said. "Hi, Dad." There was a pause that I had never heard from him before. My father was not a man who paused. He was a man who moved through conversations with the same practiced efficiency he brought to everything else. Measured, forward, conclusive. "I saw the video," he said. "I waited. We were at dinner last night. Your sister, someone had tagged her. She saw it and showed us at the table. I stood very still in the cereal aisle. A woman pushed a cart past me. I didn't move. The county director read the whole account," he said. "What happened in that building? The beam, the child's breathing, all of it." Another pause. I wasn't aware of the full extent of what he started again. "I didn't understand what your work actually looked like." I thought about the Sunday dinner where I had told them about Elijah. The polite nodding. "That sounds very intense." The pivot to the television show. "You could have asked," I said. My voice was even. I wasn't angry, or maybe I was, distantly. But it was a very old anger, and it had been sitting so long it had gone quiet. "I know," he said. Those 2 words, from my father, were not something I had a ready response for. I had prepared, over the years, for dismissal, for redirection, for the particular brand of well-meaning condescension that had characterized most of our conversations about my work. I had not prepared for, "I know," said plainly, with nothing attached to it. "The medal," he said. "The one they pinned on you. Is that a significant commendation?" "It's the highest one Franklin County gives," I said. "They don't give it every year." Only when the review board decides an incident meets the standard. Silence. Your mother wants to see it, he said. The actual medal. If you're willing. I thought about that. About driving over there. About sitting at the table where I had spent so many years making myself easier to digest. Maybe next week? I said. I'll let you know. Okay, he said. Maya. He paused again. And in the pause, I could hear him selecting words with the same care he usually reserved for conversations he had prepared for. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I stood in the cereal aisle for another moment. I know, I said. And then, because I was my father's daughter in at least this one way, I moved forward. I'll call you about next week. The TV interview happened 2 days later. It was brief, maybe 4 minutes on the local evening news. Standing outside the station with my dress uniform on again and the medal on my chest. The reporter asked me about Elijah. She asked about the training that prepared me for that kind of decision. She asked what I wanted people to know about paramedics. I said, we show up. That's the job. Whatever the situation is, whatever the building looks like, whoever is inside, we show up. And the people who do this work deserve to be seen as the professionals they are, because what they carry home after every shift is real. And what they give is real, and it matters. She thanked me, and the camera stopped. Denise was standing off to the side and gave me a thumbs up that turned into a slow clap that she was doing sarcastically, but also, I think, genuinely. My captain was leaning against the station door with her arms crossed, and an expression that on anyone else I would have called proud. My mother came to the station the following week. She didn't warn me she was coming, she texted from the parking lot, which was somehow more startling. She brought coffee, the good kind, from the place near their house that she knew I liked. She sat in the break room with me and Denise, who she had never met. And Denise talked enough for all of us, which was a gift. At some point, my mother asked if she could see the medal. I had it in my locker. I brought it out and put it on the table between us. She looked at it for a long time without saying anything. Then she put one finger on the edge of it, very lightly, and looked up at me. I think I owe you an apology, she said. More than one. I wasn't going to make it easy for her by saying it's fine, so I just looked at her and waited. We treated what you do as though it was less than, she said. I think we told ourselves that we were worried about you, that it was concern. But it was, she paused. It was pride, I think. Our own. The kind that doesn't leave room for someone else's version. I thought about being 19 at that dinner table. I thought about enrolling in January. Alone. Yeah, I said. It was, she nodded. She didn't flinch from it, which I respected. You were braver than I would have been, she said. At 19, to choose what you chose and keep choosing it. She glanced at Denise, then back at me. I'm sorry it took us this long to say that. Denise, to her eternal credit, excused herself to check on something that definitely did not need checking, and I sat across from my mother in the break room with the Medal of Valor on the table between us. Okay, I said. It wasn't forgiveness. Not entirely. Not yet. It was an opening. A door pushed slightly ajar. I still work at Station 9. I was promoted to paramedic supervisor 8 months ago. My partner Denise and I still eat terrible vending machine sandwiches on overnight shifts, and she still laughs at everything, and I still think she is one of the best humans I have ever met. Elijah started 2nd grade. His mother sends me a photo on his birthday every year. I have them saved in a folder on my phone that I don't show people but that I look at sometimes when a shift has been hard. My brother came to my promotion ceremony. He took a day off from his residency and drove down from Cleveland and stood in the back row, and when it was over, he hugged me for a long time without saying anything, and then he bought me dinner and asked me real questions about the job, the kind that meant he actually wanted to understand. We talked for 3 hours. It was the best conversation we'd had since we were kids. My father and I have a standing phone call now on Sunday evenings. It started because he called to follow up on the medal, and then called the following Sunday for no stated reason, and I picked up. And it became, without either of us officially deciding it had become, a thing that we do. He asks about calls. He uses the right vocabulary now. Occasionally I call him on something, a phrase that comes out condescending, an assumption he makes without realizing it, and he goes quiet and then says, "You're right," and we move on. It is not the relationship I would have chosen to build from scratch. It is the one we are building from where we actually are, which is harder and slower and more real. My sister texted me a few weeks ago. I've been thinking a lot about how we treated you, and I think I need to just say I'm sorry for real, not the easy version. We got coffee. She asked questions. I answered them honestly, without softening the answers. She listened. It was a beginning. I don't need their pride the way I once thought I needed it. I think that need used to sit in me like a knot, tight and constant, and somewhere in the last year it loosened. Not because they gave me what I needed, but because I stopped organizing my life around waiting for them to give it. The medal is on a shelf in my apartment, not hidden, not displayed dramatically. It's just there, next to a photo of Denise and me at last year's department barbecue and a drawing Elijah made me in first grade that his mother mailed without warning, and that made me stand in my doorway for a full minute before I could put it down. I kept doing the work that mattered. I kept showing up. That was always enough. I just had to learn to believe it didn't need anyone else's signature on it to be true. If you've ever been the one in your family who chose differently, who went left when everyone else went right, who loved something they couldn't understand, who spent years eating quietly at a table where your life felt like an inconvenience, I want you to know that the work is the proof. You don't have to wait for the video to go viral. You don't have to wait for the call that comes too late. You are allowed to know the value of what you do before anyone else does. You were always allowed to know that.